Hello, fellow GH fans, and welcome back to the Port Charles podcast. I am Eric, your host for this show, and I know it has definitely been a minute since I've brought a video out here. And I just wanted to say thank you to all of you who have reached out over the last couple of weeks, asking about the show, asking about me personally. That has really meant a lot. Just kind of real quick, a couple of weeks ago, as it got into Friday, I got sick, just was kind of down for the whole weekend, really couldn't put anything out. And at that time, it wasn't really that eventful of a week anyway. So I guess in a way, it kind of worked out because I really didn't know what I was even going to talk about. Last week, better news though, felt better. I actually got married last week. So last Friday, St. Patrick's Day, I was kind of busy doing that. And yeah, I really couldn't put out a video. I don't think my new bride would have probably appreciated that very much. But anyway, I just want to say thank you to everybody. I am so happy to be back. Wow, it's been a couple of weeks. A lot has happened. Trying to get caught up, so let's not waste any time. Let's get into the week recap that just happened. So we found out early on in the week that Elizabeth is going to receive zero punishment from the hospital board over the crime that she admitted to, which I find kind of strange. I can understand them saying, okay, you're not fired, but I would have at least expected a suspension of some kind, considering the fact you admitted to a crime. And something that was actually brought to my attention from my wife was that I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't think a nurse can be giving full medical care to somebody without being under the guidance of an actual doctor. Now, I don't know how that relates to like nurse practitioners and things like that. I'm not fully educated on the medical field as much as I watch General Hospital. But I don't think Elizabeth was legally allowed to be the sole care provider for Esme in this instance. And I believe if you do that and you admit to it, then you end up losing your medical license. You can't be involved in the medical field at all, which in then turn would have actually resulted in her termination. I don't know. I think she got off light. I knew there was no way when the episode started that she was going to get fired. I mean, what else is Elizabeth going to do? Go back home and be a stay at home mom to her three kids. So I didn't see that happening. I knew she wasn't going to get fired. I would have thought at least at the minimum a suspension, just to kind of be somewhat realistic to this. It's not like she does anything anyway, so would it have really mattered? Now we have Josslyn finding out who Dex's actual boss is, and surprise, surprise, it's her brother Michael, which it seems very rushed to me. It's like Michael knocks on the door, he comes in, and then Josslyn's like, oh my God, I get it now. It makes sense. You're his boss. Well, yeah. And now Josslyn knows about it. She knows about everything pretty much, which there's always kind of this old adage like three people can keep a secret if two of them are dead. So now Michael knows that Josslyn knows everything. It just feels like this whole plan is starting to really unravel. And I still don't know what the end game is here, but this is just turning into a really messy situation, which when it comes to things like this, and especially things that Josslyn's involved in, we would expect nothing less, right? Now, speaking of people who can't keep secrets, everybody is now busted on this whole Valentin, Anna, Lucy Co thing. Everybody's busted. Lucy runs away. She gets seen by Maxie. Maxie knows that she's alive. Maxie knows that Anna's alive. Valentin's on the bridge getting busted by Carly and Drew. It's like, what's going on here? Like, what is wrong with staying in the safe house until you can get your plan going? I just feel like, okay, they might as well just come out and admit, hey guys, we're not really dead. Let the whole town know, because the whole town's going to know anyway at some point. So I just thought this was just really goofy. Everybody's busted on this whole thing now, and I think it's just going to go downhill real fast. Now, one thing that really kind of got me throughout the week, and I see where they're heading with it, but it really kind of hit me like every time. But every time they mentioned Epiphany, I just felt like, I don't know about you, let me know how you felt on this, but knowing what happened with Sonia Eddy, knowing that she's passed on, and that in probably the next week or so, they're going to be doing a tribute episode to her. it just like my gut. It felt like a gut punch every single time they mentioned Epiphany, and it was kind of like, okay, you know what's coming, you know what's about to happen, and you just it's one of those things where you're trying to just brace yourself for the impact because you know it's coming, you know it's going to be emotional, and but every time they mentioned Epiphany, it was just like, oh man, like yes, another reminder that Sonia Eddy is no longer with us, and it's such a shame. Um, Again, great actress, love the character a lot, and already missing her on the show. So we'll have to stay tuned for that tribute episode, and hopefully they make a big deal about it with the Nurses Ball coming up as well. Now, in a surprising twist of events, Brooke Lynn actually fessed up to Chase for once and admitted, "Hey, I lied. I sold out to Link. I had to sign an NDA to get my songs back, and there it is." Now, one thing I did observe when Chase came into the room and they started talking, and they both were just like, "Well, this is how I feel about you," and "No, this is how I feel about you." Was it just me, or did it feel like, okay, is she sitting there at the piano daydreaming all this? Like this is like we're now in her fantasy of Chase coming through the door and admitting how he feels and all this stuff. And then shortly thereafter, I was like, okay, no, this is really happening. And then for her to say, okay, well, I lied, and I really just I sold out, and I'm sorry. Now, Chase, we're back to square one all over again, which I'm not super excited about either one of these characters at this point. I like Brooke Lynn a little bit more than I'm liking Chase, but they're since they don't do anything with Chase, it's just boring, it's vanilla, and I'm not really invested in that character or anything he's doing right now. So I don't know. Get back together, don't get back together. I don't really care. Now, something that was very interesting is the fact that Esme is out of Spring Ridge. Funny how that just all kind of came together, right? Oh, let's drop the charges, set her free, whatever. Now she's living with Laura and Spencer, and this is going to be a very interesting dynamic. We saw at the end of Friday, Esme was actually on her way out. She was going to take the money and run, which at first I didn't think she was going to, but it really kind of makes sense, and it's probably the smartest thing the girl could do right now is just take the money and get the hell out of town. She opens the door, and because timing is such an imperfectly perfect thing in the world of Port Charles, every time somebody opens a door, there's always somebody standing on the other side of it that was just getting ready to knock on the door. In this case, it was Cameron. And as we saw in the previews, Cameron's asking her, "Well, where do you think you're going?" I wonder, is Cameron going to make her stay? I'm guessing yes. I'm guessing that he talks to her. He tries to tell her, look, Laura's a great woman. She's very kind. She's very caring. If she says she cares, I promise you she cares. And I think he is going to convince her to stay and give Laura a chance. Now we know Spencer and Victor are scheming to get Esme thrown back in prison and get the baby away, which is probably the route they're going to try to go at some point because it's the messiest thing that we could possibly think of, so that makes the most sense for, soap writers to do. But I mentioned before in one of my previous shows about Esme actually staying with Elizabeth and kind of hitting it off with Cameron. Now, I know Cameron's going off to Stanford, but I still kind of instantly felt like this little kind of spark of connection there when Esme opened the door and they kind of met eyes and stuff. And I think Cameron's going to give her the benefit of the doubt with the memory loss, and he's going to convince her to stick around. All right, folks, well, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for coming back. Like I said, I know it's been a couple of weeks, and I really apologize for not being able to get a video out sooner, but there's just been a lot going on and a lot to deal with. So thank you all so much for tuning in, and I will definitely be back next week, and hopefully as more news and stuff comes out, I'll hit some more videos out there. kind of discussing the topics of the day and the news that's going on. But thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, this is Eric for the Port Charles Podcast.